Minister, from a map that I have in front of me here, it looks obvious that as a country we stand out as having no screening mechanism in place when it comes to the FDI investment. Figures released by the CSO in June 2022 showed that foreign direct investment position in Ireland increased by approximately 16.9 billion in 2020 to 1.1 trillion. When compared to other OECD countries, Ireland is one of the most globalised economies in Europe, second only to Luxembourg. Data also shows that the US is the biggest investor in Ireland and accounts for over 830 billion, or 76% of Irish inward FDI positions. There were 258,558 people employed by the IDA companies in Ireland in 2020 and 275,384 in 2021. Not everything about Ireland is attractive for the FDI investment, and some of the more obvious downsides to attract new businesses was housing affordability, general affordability and cost of real estate. Global connectivity in terms of ports and airports. And I do believe today that for us to have storage for gas, I do believe the port in Belfast has got the contract for storing gas in Ireland, right? Why, Minister? Because none of our other ports were ready for it. Now, I mentioned earlier on today, Foynes Port has a planning application in for 10 years trying to get storage for gas. And now we've lost it to Belfast because none of our ports were ready. What does that tell you? Minister, that's a failure of government and policies to make sure this happens. Investment. What would that have meant for Foynes and the county of Limerick? Huge employment. Huge people would start moving in there. Infrastructure would be built. We're talking about the Dare bypass, connecting Foynes by port by 2030, putting a rail system out from Limerick. And we've lost a contract like that to Belfast. And we're talking about investment coming into this country. The new the other thing that they were looking at for investors coming into this country was the super high cost and availability of electricity supply. And I spoke again about this yesterday for businesses coming in here and excessive rates that they're paying. And a lot has to do, even though you reduced the cost of VAT on electricity, you still had 16.4 billion profits in that. And you're up 4.6 billion from this time last year, even though you reduced the VAT. How are we supposed to get investors in here to invest in this country? How are we supposed to have sustainable employment? Even the existing companies that we have at the moment now are running scared, and now they're talking about reduced hours themselves and reduced shifts to make sure that they can actually get the industry working. The new legislation aims to provide a process to allow the certain transactions that may present risk to the security, public order of the state to be renewed by the Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. It will empower the Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment to access, investigate, authorise, condition or prohibit third country investment on a range of security and public order criteria. Minister, if anything has to happen in this country, we need more investment, we need more people, we need security for our ESB, we need security for the next generation, for the employers that want to come in here. That stands steadily on your shoulders. Thank you, Minister.